everyone, and welcome to my channel Simply Maggie, where I teach you all things arm knitting and yarn related and some other DIY things here and there. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to arm knit a garter stitch blanket. There's so many different stitches that you can do with arm knitting, so I wanted to bring you one of them today and teach you how to use it in the form of a blanket. So this tutorial is going to be super easy and quick for you guys, and I'm just going to go ahead and get right into it and what we're going to need to make this garter stitch blanket. Okay, so the materials we're going to be using today are 2 skeins of the Premier Couture Jazz. It's the 500 gram ball, and this is a jumbo number 7 yarn, and I am using the color Milk. I have pulled my first strand from the center of my first skein, and we're going to need about a 6.5 foot tail. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5, and then we're going to make our slip knot. To make the slip knot, you drape the yarn over your hand. Pinch the 2 sides together, make sure you insert all of your fingers. Then you're going to twist that loop away from you and grab the working yarn, which is the yarn that's attached to the skein. So go ahead and place that slip knot onto your arm and tighten up. Next thing we're going to do is cast on our stitches. I'm going to cast on a total of 22 stitches. So to cast on, you want to take the working yarn, again that's the one that is attached to the skein, and your tail, put them both under your ring finger and your pinky, insert your index finger and your thumb in between, spread those apart, and then turn the palm of your hand towards you so it's facing you. Next thing you're going to do is take your index finger on your right hand, go under this strand, over this one, and pick that one up in the back to create your new stitch. I'll show you how to do that. Go under that one, over that one, and pick up that strand, and this creates your new stitch, and you're just going to place that onto your arm and tighten up. The slip knot counted as your first stitch, so that was your second. We'll do that again. Put both strands under your ring finger and your pinky, insert your index finger and your thumb, turn the palm of your hand towards you, go under, over, and pick up this strand in the back, and pull that up to create a new stitch, and go ahead and place that onto your arm. And you're just going to keep doing that until you have a total of 22 stitches. Okay, so I have my 22 stitches squished all into the smallest part of my arm. And now we're going to begin knitting our rows. So today we're going to be doing the garter stitch, and that means each row is going to be knit a little bit differently. So our first row, we're going to have the yarn in the back of our work, and then in the second row, we'll have the yarn in the front of our work. Okay, so let's begin by knitting our first row. To do that, you're going to hold the working yarn in your right hand, pull that first stitch over and off while holding onto the working yarn to create your new stitch, and you're just going to place that right onto your other arm and then tighten up by pulling on the working yarn. And now we're going to knit our second stitch, so hold the working yarn in your right hand, pull that next stitch over and off, creating your new stitch, and then you're going to place that stitch on your left arm. So just take note here that the working yarn is in the back of our work. So now we're going to knit our third stitch, hold the working yarn in your right hand, pull that next stitch over and off to create your new stitch, and place that onto your left arm. You want to keep your stitches as tight as possible, so tighten that up. And I'm just going to continue knitting this entire row, and then I will come back and show you how to knit your second row. Okay, so I have finished my first row and now we're going to start row 2. Now to do this, you're going to hold the working yarn in your left hand, okay? Pull that first stitch over and off, creating your new stitch. And just like row 1, you're going to just place that onto your right arm and tighten up. Now here's where it's different. You're going to grab the working yarn and pull it to the front of your work. That may be tricky at first, but this will give you the look of the garter stitch. So I have the working yarn not in the back, but I have it in the front of my work. So now we're going to grab this stitch here, pull it over and off while holding the working yarn, and then you're going to place that new stitch onto your right arm. Now to tighten, remember you want to grab the working yarn and pull it to the front of your work. Okay, and we're going to do that again. Hold the working yarn, see how the yarn is on the front side of our work now. We're going to hold the working yarn in our left hand, pull that next stitch over and off, creating your new stitch, and place that onto your right arm, Tighten it by keeping the yarn in the front of your work. We'll do that one more time. Hold the working yarn in your left hand, pull that next stitch over and off, creating your new stitch, and place that on your right arm. And tighten. I'm going to continue doing that across my entire row, and then I will show you how to do row 3. I have finished my second row, and you can see when you keep the yarn in the front of your work, it creates these bumps here, and that's going to make the garter stitch. So now we're going to start row 3, and row 3 is going to be the same as row 1. So you're going to keep the yarn in the back of your work. So to knit row 3, hold the working yarn in your right hand, pull that first stitch over and off, creating a new stitch, and you place it onto your left arm. And now we're going to hold the working yarn in the back. Now we're going to knit the second stitch, hold the working yarn in your right hand, pull that next stitch over and off, creating your new stitch, and place that onto your left arm. Alright, so I'm just going to continue knitting row 3 with the yarn in the back of my work, and then I will show you how to knit row 4. Okay, so this is what it looks like after arm knitting 3 rows, and now we're going to knit row 4, and row 4 is going to be the same as row 2. So you're going to hold the working yarn in your left hand, take that first stitch and pull it over and off while holding your working yarn, and you're going to place that onto your right arm. Tighten up. Now with row 4, you're going to be holding the working yarn in the front of your work. Okay, so make sure the yarn is in the front of your work, which means it's closer to you. And now we're going to knit the second stitch. Hold the working yarn in your left hand, pull that next stitch over and off, creating your new stitch, and now place that stitch onto your right arm and tighten. And again, hold the working yarn in your left hand, pull that next stitch over and off, and then place that new stitch onto your right arm and tighten. Remember to keep your stitches as tight as possible. And I'm just going to continue row 4, keeping the working yarn in the front of my work. So we're done with row 4. And now what you're going to do is just continue repeating rows 1 and 2 for your entire blanket. Okay, so I will come back after I've knit all of this first skein. I will show you how to attach your second skein of yarn. So I just finished knitting row 18, and it's time to add on the second skein here. So I'm going to remove the wrapper, find the strand in the center, And then you're just going to attach it with a double knot. Okay, so just put the two ends together, tie one knot, tie a second knot, and then pull it nice and tight. Take your scissors and just kind of trim it to the shape of the knot. And that's it. I'm going to continue knitting my blanket, and when I've completed all of my rows, I will show you how to end your blanket. Now we're going to go ahead and end our blanket. So to end your blanket, you want to knit 2 stitches. 1, 2, and when you're binding off, you don't want to tighten up too much, because then you'll have one skinnier end of your blanket. And after you knit 2 stitches, you're going to take that first stitch and pull it over the second one and off of your hand. Tighten just a little, and then you're going to knit 1, and again take that first stitch, pull it over the second one and off of your hand, and then tighten a little, knit 1, bind 1 off, knit 1, bind 1 off, and you're going to continue doing that until you have 1 stitch left on your arm. Okay, so I have 1 stitch left. Now what you're going to do is cut your yarn about 6 inches away from your blanket. And you're just going to pull it all the way through that loop to make a knot. And you can see we ended our blanket here. And now we're going to weave in our ends. So I'm just going to take this tail here, poke it through there, and then on this stitch in the back, I'm going to pull it through halfway to create a loop. I'm going to pull it through halfway again to create another loop, and then I'm going to pull it all the way through to make a knot, and just pull that as tight as it will go, and then trim the excess to the shape of the knot. And then you're going to do the same thing on your cast on edge. And that's it. That's how you create the garter stitch in the form of a blanket. Oh my goodness, this is so fluffy and squishy. Alright guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. I had so much fun making this blanket today for you guys and teaching you my tips and tricks, and just bringing you all these different stitches that you can use with arm knitting. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. I will do my best to get back to you and help you out in any way that I can. If you are new here and you aren't subscribed yet, please hit that little subscribe button down there so that you don't miss out on any of my new videos. And you can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. I will have those links down below for you, as well as the links to where you can purchase the yarn that I used in this video. If you want to see more videos like this and more stitches that you can do with arm knitting, give this video a thumbs up. That'll let me know to keep on making videos just like this one. And that is it for today, guys. I will see you in my next video. Bye!